All right. Welcome, everyone. All right, I think we can get started. I know that there are some folks who are coming in, but we are at quorum, and so I'm going to get our August meeting of the Zoning Preservation and Development Committee started with some roll call. All right. I am present. Commissioner Kensek. Committee Member Bello.
Here.
Thank you. Committee Member Brueggemann. Right. Committee Member Chauvin.
Here.
Committee Member Gall.
Present.
Thank you. Committee Member Handelman. And I do need to update this, but Ian Hawksworth is no longer on the committee. He withdrew himself. Committee Member Heisey. Committee Member Hong.
Here.
Thank you. Committee Member Kramer. Committee Member Smith let me know that he is not able to make it today. Committee Member Flippins.
Is present.
And Committee Member Nelson.
Present.
Great. Okay, so for our agenda today, we are going to get started with application to the Historic Preservation Review Board, which is 1300 W Street Northwest. The case number is HPA 25-378. And after that, we will discuss a resolution that is titled A Resolution Urging Light Touch Density Throughout the District of Columbia. And that is going to be a discussion with Commissioner Barrio. All right, so I know we have some folks in the audience who are here for 1300W, and so I'm going to promote Mr. Rupert to panelist. And then if there's anyone else who needs to join us as a panelist, just raise your hand as an attendee and I will make sure to promote you. All right, so Mr. Rupert, you should be able to unmute and share your screen. All right, there, fabulous. Let me know if you can't share your screen. Sometimes the panelist promotion is a little funky. And I'm happy to share since I have, if you can't, I'm happy to share. Great. All right. So if you could get us started with this application, just give us a little bit of an overview of what your application is, the location, all that good stuff, and also just FYI, you are on mute.
Sorry about that.
No worries. And Frank, I do see your question. Do you have a question about the application that can wait until after the presentation, or do you want to ask it now?
I'd appreciate asking it now because I looked through it twice, didn't see. Is the application lot in an RF1 or an MU zone?
I don't think it's either. I think it's an
RA2 zone.
yeah, it's RA2.
RA2. And yes, my second question, I'm sorry, and is just this, that just from having looked at all the materials, I don't see how it relates to the adjacent row houses. It's missing in the pictorials. So I can't judge whether the application and the design and it's owed to the historic application references the adjacent row homes. And I'll leave it there and thank you for your pending presentation.
Thanks, Frank. I think hopefully Mr. Rupert will be able to describe that for us during the presentation, but I will let him take it away.
Sure. Yeah, I actually have the photos of the neighbors. We didn't draw them in here, but we've presented them to staff, and they were actually. This is our second rendering. The first one they were happy with. They were more happy with this one, but I'll walk it through. It is an RA2 zone, which I'm sure you guys know it allows up to 50 feet, and um, excuse me, there's no curb cuts, so there wouldn't be any parking. Uh, the units that we are proposing, it's 3 units, and I'll kind of describe how they're laid out here on the site plan. There's one cellar unit with 2 individual townhome style homes on top of the cellar. So that's how we get to this plan here, that there's one home that faces 13th Street and W Street, and then there's one home on the rear of the building that'll just face W Street and, of course, a little bit of a backyard. Um, As you can tell, the bay window is a 4-story bay window, which is similar to the homes on 13th Street. We're a tiny bit shorter than those just because our FAR, that's I think why the lot was for sale for so long. We actually tried to buy it in 2015 and 2018 and 2020. And so it's been around for a while. And I think it's just been a real struggle for developers to figure out how to use the FAR. And how best, and also to build something that doesn't have parking as far as mixed with the unit price, because that all has to, in a developer's mind, that all has to make sense. What can be built there and who's going to be willing to buy there based on a price range and if it's feasible. And we've had a decent amount of success in the city with our product, and I've gained a lot of confidence over what we can do with this size home. The one on 13th Street that is right here, that is about 1,100 square feet. This is the entry level, then the living level, and then a bedroom level above. And then the home on W Street that'll face W Street, this one is just under 1,000 square feet, so 972 square feet. And then the cellar home is 690 square feet, just a 1-bedroom down here. The other 2 homes on top are both 2-bedroom homes with 2.5 bath. Exterior materials we just added today as I was going through this, getting ready for today. The bulk of the building is going to be masonry. The bays are all hardy panel. There'll be a large, about a 2.5-foot cove molding up at the top, which will be so awesome. If you've seen any of our previous buildings, you know that in the building, we've done a lot of projects in the city that have won a lot of awards and been recognized nationally with our architectural style. And so this cove at the top is huge, and it'll just tie in everything really well because the rest of the buildings on 13th Street are pretty ornate. The bay windows turned a little bit more modern, just to be a tiny bit transitional between because I know DC Historic doesn't want you to build something that really, really replicates something in the past. They want you to kind of be transitional so that it's a historic building that kind of leans into today's world. So our bay windows are a bit more modern. They did have one comment on the front bay. They had questions about this bulkiness up top. So Greg, our architect, who has done our homes for 22 years. He lives in Colorado, but he grew up in Annapolis, so he really does understand a DC aesthetic, and he's done all of our homes that have won many awards. So he's going to redo this top turret, so it's not so bulky looking and not so tall, I think is another comment they had mentioned. The other comment that he's going to address from staff, I'm sorry, a little allergy going on here. The window pattern on this front bay, they were fine with the amount of glass. They did not like how it was divided into 3 sets of windows, since most of the windows on 13th Street the bays are divided into 2 window columns. So Greg is going to address this top heaviness and this window pattern on this front bay. Oh, another thing that they had questions on were these little punched out windows here. They just felt that these punched windows on the side of the bays on the first floor, if there wasn't a reason for them to be that size, that they really felt that these should be comparable in height to the windows on the fronts of the bays. So he's going to change that as well. Let's see. What else? Oh, the for the site plan. I walked into this a little bit. The home on W Street will enter through a lead walk on W. The home on 13th Street will enter off of 13th Street. And then the seller will have another entrance on the back. So there'll just be 3 lead walks going into the home. And landscaping we'll try to save the street trees. I'm pretty sure that they're in decent health. I'm not an arborist, but I'm sure that we'll be required to have one and make sure that these are decently protected and in good health. If you haven't seen any of our completed projects, I urge you to. The landscaping that we do is pretty intense. So I'm sure that the existing trees here probably won't. There's a decent sized one on the 13th. There's another decent one here. My goal would be to save them. I don't know. Usually the utility people and the people digging the foundation talk me out of it because they know that the root systems will pretty much get wrecked by building these the wells that go out for the windows in the basement. And not only that, the utilities get into the home. But we do replace things with really sizable trees, probably 3 to 4 inch caliper, at least 10 feet tall to begin with. And we'll do really good house base plantings as well. Don't pay any attention to the patios drawn here. That's just Greg being creative. I'm not sure that that would actually happen or not. By the next ANC meeting, I would have more detail on what we're doing with these patios. We'll probably just take them off. Both of these homes will have a rooftop terrace that'll be hidden behind the parapet. And then the basement unit will have a tiny little area wall here to a decent landscaped yard. And then if you want me to, I can pull up the photos. It might just take me a second to get to. I don't know that I can pull them up at the same time. Can you see what the photo that I pulled up, or is that not sharing?
No, we can
It's
see it.
sharing.
Yep.
Yeah,
Oh,
because
so my whole monitors. Okay, cool. So Greg didn't draw these in, but hopefully to the first person's question, you can see our height is a tiny bit shorter than these, I'm probably 10 inches shorter, just because our FAR won't let us go any taller. Staff did want us to match the height and the bay window pattern on 13th Street, and the homes get a little shorter on W Street. So that's why our bays are a little bit smaller and a little boxier. But of course they don't do the turret on the top because that's not the front of our house. That'll be over here.
you said the front will be on 13th Street. And
Yeah, the actual, like what would actually be the look like a front of a home would be the one on 13th Street, but we all know that on W Street there'll be the entrance, the front door to the home on W Street. Yeah.
And this is all in this vacant lot, little garden area that was always like a gated, like a garden area right here at the corner. Am I correct?
Yeah.
Okay. So,
yeah, that's this. So that site, that little garden spot is this whole space right here.
Move your mouse. So I'm not catching.
Oh, I'm sorry. This space
okay.
right here. That's all this.
So that's going to remain a garden space right there. And you're just only doing the renderings, that's the square, the squares that we have right here in front of us. I'm just want to make sure that I'm clear as to what place you're building on.
No, so that little empty lot is what this whole thing is drawn on. We won't be able to build to the sidewalk, so it's a setback from 13th Street to this line right here. So our line will be in line with the existing homes and in line with the existing homes on W Street. So that's the lot that's going to be developed.
So what trees are you saying that?
I was mentioning there's a really decent sized tree right here on the corner. I think this is actually the drawing part.
I know.
And it's right here too. It's right on the fence line. It's right at the sidewalk. I'm sure that those 2 trees will not survive construction. The street trees will, though. We'll protect those, and we'll make sure that they're healthy with the arborist. But I'm sure that we're doing the home across the street diagonally over this way, and I tried like hell to save that big tree back towards the alley. But the utilities had to come in like within 3 feet of it, so we're just going to have to replace it. But the same thing will probably happen with these 2 trees as well.
Okay, and you're right that the houses on W Street are far shorter. I do know that, and I just wanted to see. I just thought you would have, as Frank mentioned, something that was in line where we could see how it works with the neighbors' homes. But I know a lot of the foliage from the trees would not allow you to have a real rendering without you removing the top portion of the trees to
Yeah,
show this. So,
yeah,
okay, I'm just curious about the tree thing because that sort of was a interesting take.
yeah. No, I understand that. Like, if you knew me better, you'd know how important the trees are to me. But we'll end up replacing them with trees, and then they'll be sprinklered and fertilized and healthy from the get-go. The two that are right here, there's one here right. It's literally on the sidewalk, and that guy is the other one right here is also right on the sidewalk. But there's two decent-sized street trees here. That will be protected, but those two are probably going to have to go, and we'll replace them with something just as nice. As far as the height goes, we're just a shorter than the gable here, but as you can tell, they reduced down. We had to stay within 2 feet from this chimney on the back of the building, and we're also about 4 feet shorter, not as deep as the other homes on 13th Street.
And you mentioned Sean that that's specifically because of the FAR.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
The other ones even have I'll draw it on here if I can. These homes all have, oh gosh, why isn't it doing it? They all have like a balcony that sticks out. I think that I measured the balconies. They're about 8 feet deep, that stick off of the back of these. So they're developed a little bit further out, than what we can do. Probably like that, I guess.
It's a little mini alleyway that's right behind that property.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
I'm just trying to see how you guys would do the trash for those 3 units, and I'm curious because there's no parking for this
Right,
location.
right. Trash is we were talking about trash all week last week. The trash for the people, Greg did not draw it on here, but it's a 2 or 3 foot easement here that accesses back. And it's also, he didn't draw it, not on purpose. It's just, it's not on our title work at all. Um, so the civil engineer didn't show it, our architect doesn't show it, and it's not in our title work. So, but I know, having been around here long enough, I was also, not that you guys care, but I sold Harrison Square across the street in 1999 when I was 29 years old. So I have a long history in the neighborhood, from working across the street, and I still have friends that live over there. I've talked to the lady who owns this as well, the home on W Street. That's our neighbor. I know this is an easement, but it's not written anywhere. So that's why Greg didn't draw it, but I know it's there. We just have to find proof of the easement. So, but anyway, this is how those guys get their trash out. We were gonna maybe even make a little carve out for trash here, because if you go by now, all their trash cans are piled up right here next to this lady's front yard. So
Right.
we might do a little carve out so that there can be a neater place for trash cans here. Because certainly I want that to look nice. And I'm sure that the neighbor would appreciate that too.
Yeah, as you walk back and forth, the trash is always in that little alleyway.
Yeah.
And and I was just curious as to how you were going to incorporate the trash for this location, especially with
Yep.
3 actual condo units.
Yep.
And it's gonna be that will be 3 different trash cans added to that space. So I
Yep.
think that would probably be a great idea to be considerate on that level.
Absolutely, and it would help for our marketing. We don't want to, whatever we do back here. If you haven't walked back there, I would be careful going back there. It's pretty nasty, and the rats are horrible.
Exactly.
It's
That's
really
exactly the
bad.
reason why I mentioned the trash because you can't that's a rat den. That whole
Yeah.
little garden area is a rat den. It used to be a garden. And now it's been a vacant space that people haven't been
Yep.
utilizing. And so, but when you go past that area, the rats love that particular little
It's
zone.
It's really bad. But I'm
Yeah.
sure as soon as we do a solid, because the concrete is all broken up and all nasty back there, but as soon as we do a real lead walk, like a real concrete walk back here, and do a little carve out for a actual trash receptacle area, it'll look a lot better.
Okay, that was my questions. I appreciate it, and I do like Harrison Square, so thank you.
That was a long time ago.
Oh, I've been around a long time, so I know.
Frank, you have a question.
Yeah, I was wondering if the applicant would be willing to agree to file a surveyor's amendment for the easement, because this is not an unparalleled situation all over the city, including, unfortunately, adjacent to my home. There's an easement that exists in each of the deeds of trusts for each lot owner, but there's no surveyors encapsulation or filing for the easement, and it really should be reflected somehow. So that would be
Yeah,
helpful to the neighborhood.
yeah.
That's first. I'm wondering if you might agree to that, to conducting that work, and then secondly, I'll iterate my point. Um, I, have not been a trained architectural historian or, zoning person, but I've come to learn over my last 6 years on this committee that I like to see the adjacent architecture and the features so that I know, and I repeated this, I said this at the beginning of it, so I'm iterating it, but I still would like to see the rendition of the adjacent properties. So I know that the remarks you've made about dedicating to the fact that it is historical and dedicating to the adjacent characteristics without emulating something that's 140 or 50 years old exactly, but I'd like to see how they relate, and so that I see that your design choices and your cornice sort of are an ode, because that's what we're limited to. So is there any way you can submit those again to us? And I think
Yeah,
that's
I
my.
mean, I can work on the easement and I can have those other homes added for the next meeting if that's okay with you.
Of course, thank you.
Yeah, so and because Greg is going to be working on that cornice that they said was kind of heavy anyway. So that's got to be done. The window pattern has to be edited. And so I would hope that we could get through this meeting and I could present that at the ANC.
Sure, thank you. I mean, fine with me. I don't know how others might feel.
Yeah, and I'll
Am I?
tell the sorry, and I'll have the civil engineer and the title attorney work on the easement because it's super weird that it isn't on our title work.
Yeah, and then lastly, I think Karen touched on this, and I'm not sure. I might be repeating her because I was walking at that point, so I apologize. But I am concerned about the trash. Yes, I'd like to see it encapsulated. So it's not a front and present item and sort of a focal point as people walk by, as the corner lot with the big trash bin and trash collection area. Is there something we can consider further, maybe further down the easement area, as a means for storing and holding back towards the alley lot behind V
Yeah.
Street, behind W
I think
Street
what,
there?
yeah, I definitely, if you missed it, I definitely want to work on the trash and make sure that it's in a presentable manner so that it looks a way better than it does now. I worry though that because the neighbors here are so used to leaving the trash cans up here that that's probably where they're going to end up. Um, but I was thinking if the easement goes through here, that we would do a trash receptacle here that could hold like 4, 5, or 6 toters because they're going to need recycling and normal trash. Um, and then these homeowners, because they're not going to take the trash cans back to their yard like they're like normal, so they're going to leave them out there. So and none of them have contacted me back. Like I've written letters, I haven't heard from any of those neighbors because a lot of those are rentals. So I've been sending the letters to their primary residence. One's in Falls Church, and I don't know the other ones, but anyway, yeah, the trash is definitely something that we want to work on. If the trash has to be back a little bit further, that's cool too. We just would have to figure that out.
Yeah, I just like to present one last piece of the easement, and I think an easement is a decision left to the folks who have legal right to the easement. So whoever those folks are, they just have to agree that they will bring their cans back to their units instead of the last 50 or 30 or 20 or
Oh,
100
that's
years,
smart, right?
and so you
Oh,
just
that's smart.
articulate it in the easement so
Yeah,
that they do
okay.
bring it back because I find it to be a practice in quite a few locations that I've lived that, because we've done it doesn't mean we can't change it. And to leave the big mess makes nobody responsible for their
That's way
cans
smart.
and the
Like,
mess.
I didn't even
Okay.
think about that.
I've said what I need to say. Thank you for your presentation. It looks great and looking forward to it. Thanks.
Thanks. Thanks.
Thanks,
That's
Sean.
awesome. I'm glad you thought of that. I would not have thought of that.
I thought I would also just mention that if you go onto Google Street View for this from the W
Thank you,
Street side,
folks.
which I have it open, so I'm happy to share if that's helpful. You can actually
Yeah,
see
sure.
the trash cans in their current configuration. Um, let me.
Yeah, I was going to add to that because I was going to tell you that Google should have they're always pretty prevalent out there,
Yeah,
trash cans, and because it looks like a little mini alley, I think that I don't see cars drive through there but I
no,
see sometimes occasionally people will th- you can't park in there. And just like those trash cans are lined up, this is
yeah,
what we see all the time. But please, if you guys know, I ride my scooter down the street, and this is that little place beside those trash cans is a rat haven, and you see all types of rat families in that area. But the way the trash cans are lined up, but when trash day happens, all of those trash cans are always out in the middle of the sidewalk, and you can't
Yeah,
navigate through there. So I think that as you're saying, Sean, if you create an enclave in which you can store the trash bins, especially since you have three condos coming in, it will not add to what we're currently looking at. You know what I mean?
yeah. I agree.
So I think that it'll be a huge asset. There's
I
Joel.
agree.
Joel is on. Did he come
oh
in?
great.
He's coming. There he is. Sorry, Sean. I didn't mean. I was
That's
excited
okay.
because I saw Joel.
Welcome, Joel.
Yeah, but I think that would be a huge asset for that area. But the good thing we don't have one of those dumpsters right there. But that as long as you don't do a dumpster, I think that would be
Right.
a benefit.
Yep.
And just to confirm, Sean, this, I mean, I'm not seeing you mentioned earlier, but I'm also not seeing a curb cut. This alley is not car accessible.
No, it's not really an alley.
Okay.
It's
It's not
just
an alley. I
It's
it's
call
just
like
like
it
a
an
two
alley,
through.
feet.
Christian. I apologize.
No,
It's
it's okay.
not
I
an
just
alley.
I just wanted to confirm that nobody.
Yeah.
I mean, it
And there's
looks.
no alley on the other side. It just
Got it.
goes to those yards, and then the school owns right up to that other house, so there's no way out. There's no other way out.
Got it. I am just gonna go around the corner and since we're here, oop, too far, and show what it looks like from 13th Street. So these are the houses that you showed earlier, Sean, and then the yard is or the lot is this kind of this yard here. And so you were mentioning
Um,
this tree right here is the one that you likely won't
I
move. It's
actually
just
I can't see your view.
ooh, hold on, let me try again.
The issue is you guys are both trying to share at the same time. So Sean, if you stop sharing, then
Ah,
Kristen can share.
I thought I had turned that off. Sorry. Thanks.
Okay,
It's
I
nothing
stopped.
like Zoom to make you feel like you don't know what you're doing. Anyway, so can you all see that?
Yep.
Okay, great. So this tree right here that my mouse is on is the one that you were
Yeah.
mentioning that you won't be able to save. You don't
Yeah.
think you will be. And
No.
then this is what the adjacent buildings look like.
Yep.
Um, and of course that's the school. So,
Yep.
and then this is the lot from the corner.
Yeah, and you can see that one tree there is
This
that
one?
kind of is really not healthy. Yeah, that's the other tree on the
Yeah.
lot.
It's healthy, dear. It's healthy. Don't try to do that.
No, the other one to the left is really bad. Like if you go back, it
To
doesn't
the
matter.
left.
Yeah, to the left. It's like
Oh,
half.
right here, you're saying?
Oh no, those two are fine.
Oh,
This
okay.
right, yeah, that, yeah, if you get a closer view of that, it's half dead now.
This
That one's
one?
good. Yeah.
This one.
To the left.
Yeah, that's
To the
to the
left.
right.
This tree.
Yeah, stop right there.
Okay.
The one over top of the card, that one, you can tell it's like really bad.
Let me see if
I
I
mean,
can
the
get
one with the one broken branch?
Yeah, no, like if you go to it from another view, it looks like it's been on fire. It's
this
really bad.
tree.
Oh,
Yeah,
this one. Oh, the scraggly one.
yeah,
But
that one. Yeah, but the two on the our sidewalk line, they're relatively healthy. It's just I don't think they'll stay there.
mm,
Great. Nanya, I see you have a question.
I don't have a question. I just have, I guess, a comment. I wanted to say that like I really appreciate that you guys are trying to build something on this site. I walk by this site literally every single day when I go to work, past to get to Metro. It's been vacant for, well, you said you guys, tried to buy it in 2015, 2018, a bunch of times. So I'm really happy that, especially in when we are kind of so short of housing in DC, that you guys are trying to build something on what is otherwise kind of a vacant lot to kind of, help us kind of, both help with housing and to really, make the kind of area look nicer as well. So I just wanted to say that I really appreciate it. And that, I think, we've talked a lot about trash and some of these other issues, but I think, there's kind of small issues. And I think overall, I think it would be a benefit to the neighborhood.
Any other questions from committee members? Okay, so we can go into committee comment. I will just get us started. I totally agree with you, Nani. I think it seems like a very appropriately designed building, considering I mean, I know that we don't have the sort of rendering that Frank is asking for, and Sean, you mentioned that you would be willing to provide that before the full ANC meeting.
Sure.
Um, I personally don't have a problem looking at this rendering without that. I can tell based on the rendering you've provided and also looking at the buildings that are there on Google Street View, that they seem compatible with each other. Um, I'm sure that that additional rendering will help the rest of the ANC commissioners understand the application too.
Okay.
So very happy to have that for the full ANC to review. But I don't personally have a problem considering this now without that. But yeah, I walk by this often all the time as well, and it is the yard is scraggly, so it's nice to see that something nice will be built there in its place.
Christian, I have one quick question, just
Sure.
or, excuse me, I already know the answer, but I'm gonna ask it anyway. John, I assume that you're doing this as totally matter of right. You're not asking for any variances, no exceptions. There's no need to go to BZA at all. You just have to go through HBRB because it's in a
Right.
historic zone, right?
Right.
Okay.
Yep. I should have said that from the beginning. I didn't think to, but there's no variances. It's all by right.
Okay, thanks.
And
I have a comment.
yeah, go ahead, please.
But I just want to concur with what you said. And one, and it's been vacant for a very, 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 very long time, way past 2018. I know what it was used for beforehand. And people did try to do something. They tried to use it as a community garden, and then it went south because no one really wanted to stay on it. But it's nice to see some additional vibrancy added to that corner, and it will definitely bring it to life. And I'm looking for, and I thought your renderings were perfect. I mean, considering what you were working with, and we know that the scale of the housing, everything I thought went along with it in regards to the historic point of view. So I think what he's provided was adequate. I really did like everything. Thank you very much for your presentation.
Thanks.
Joel. Joel, if you are talking, we can't hear you. Unfortunately.
So he says in the chat, he says,
Ah,
technically the trash cans can't be stored in the public space, which I think I knew that. That's why I was suggesting maybe they go back a little bit further. But that's also awesome what the other gentleman said about the easement. When we do the easement, to put it in the easement that the trash cans have to go to your yards. Like that's genius.
thanks, Sean. For some reason, I'm not getting notifications about the chat on I'm not getting
Oh.
the little red button.
That was
Appreciate that.
that was the only one. That's the only thing in the chat was that one.
Great. All right. Any other,
Sean, I have one more technical question.
Yeah.
Sorry, I should have thought of this before. You're talking about that property being an easement, but there's a fence that actually ends at the end. He said
Mm-hmm.
needs to be promoted, said he can't unmute. So is your lot, because I looked at the plat that I saw, but I couldn't figure out, does your lot go right up against the corner house?
It does. It goes all the way to the W Street house, and there's no easement drawn on it, and there's no verbiage in our title work that says anything about an easement. So our lot goes all the way from the sidewalk on 13th Street to the W Street house.
And you have checked with the surveyor to confirm that that is in fact correct?
Yeah, so the survey so it's not, so when a developer buys a property, they don't do a normal location survey like you get when you buy a house. The one that we had done is $5,200. And so they do all the title search. They locate all the utilities underground. They tell you how tall that chimney is because you have to stay away from that. They tell you the diameter of all the trees on the property. Like it's really intense. So we had that done. And so yeah, our lot goes all the way back to the W Street house.
So if it's not recorded on the deed and it's not in anywhere, there probably is a quote unquote verbal easement
Yeah,
and you
so
have to-
the title or guy today gave it some name. I forget what he called it, but a use, an understood use. I'm messing it up. I won't say it right, but there's a word for what this is. It's like an understood use or something, but it's not legal. So we'd have to make it a legal easement.
Okay. Oh, Joel has rejoined, hopefully.
Yep.
Okay, we can hear you and we can see you.
Yep. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Are you talking to me or someone else?
You, Joel, we can hear you.
Oh, good. Like I said, I missed the first part of this. But for voting or for reviewing this, I like the sketches. I think they're fine. I don't have any problem with that. But will we have a chance to review materials or have materials been discussed?
I did really quickly. I did really quickly about the brick and the panels and the cove molding. And I didn't go into the windows, but they're all on that sheet. The windows are all double hung clad. So there'll be vinyl clad on the outside and wood on the inside.
Okay.
Yeah.
No one else had any issues?
I don't believe
Nope.
so, no.
Okay, then
Oh,
I'll go
and the
with you
metal
guys.
stairs that were-
I'll go with your guys' judgment on that one.
Great.
Okay.
Just one more thing, the metal stairs that we're doing are done. If you guys have walked anywhere around the city, like Mr. Campbell, he's the metal stair king. He does like everybody's wrought iron and cast iron stairs. He's done 4 of our homes, and so he'll be doing the cast iron stairs that lead up to the front doors too. So they'll be smacking. They'll be good.
Great. Frank, did you
What
have
was his name again, Sean? I'm sorry.
Mr. Campbell.
Okay. Okay, I'm
Yeah,
sorry.
he's awesome.
I want to know who he is.
If you email me, there's 2 men in the city that do literally every metal stair from Georgetown to Shaw and like everything. And they're all And they're both in their 80s, and they're awesome. And Mr. Campbell, we've done a lot of work with him, but there's
It was
another
this
gentleman.
guy named Beanie, is metalsmith named Beanie, who I used to use, but I want to get this guy's contact. Thank you.
Yeah, sure.
Frank, did you have something to add?
Yes, thank you. Pardon me. Let's see. Just one thing further regarding the easement. I'm glad you are undertaking an intent here, but also please provide, besides rights, duties in there. Because if you have a bunch of tenants, they have no duties there, and they should have duties there. Such
Okay.
as cleaning, such as a yearly power wash, something, because my easement is a mess. I feel like I have to be in charge of it, and I don't like being in charge of it because it's not elucidated, it's not enunciated in the land records. For it hasn't been updated in 100 years. There's no surveyors. There's no surveyor sketch. It's only in each deed that there is an existing easement on the side of my property. So no rights, no duties, and so I have to, sort of raise my voice and remind people of their duties, and I don't like doing that. So just consider adding duties
No, I will.
in there also. Yeah.
That's awesome. I never would have thought about that.
All right. Any other comments or questions for Sean? Okay, hearing none, I am wondering if there's a committee member who'd like to move a motion.
I would like to make the motion, and
Great.
I actually was trying to make sure that I had the proper address. Besides, the only one that I had was the 1300 W Street. Is that the actual reflective address in the
Yeah.
record? Okay.
I'll
I
second the motion.
okay. Well,
Hmm.
thank you. Well, then that's the motion then. For to recommend to the full ANC that for the historic preservation for the 1300 block of W Street Northwest, accept the renderings that has been presented by Sean. What is your last name? I'm so sorry.
Rupert.
Rupert.
I'm so sorry, Sean Rupert. I'm switching back and forth between screens. Please forgive me. And that's my motion. Thank you.
Karen, do you accept a friendly amendment that is
Just gonna say, you need to make an amendment. She missed some stuff.
Yeah, I was trying to flip between screens, but
no worries.
please feel free to amend it.
Sure.
Grant.
Do you accept a friendly amendment that is a motion to recommend to the full ANC, a motion to recommend that the full ANC approve the application at 1300 W Street,
Yes, sir.
HPA
Support,
25
support, not
support.
support,
Thank you.
support.
Yes,
That the full
supporting.
ANC support the application to the HPRB for 1300 W Street, HPA case number 25-378, and that in advance of the ANC meeting, Mr. Rupert pursue an easement with regard to, or pursue the, I'm forgetting the actual
The
technical
survey for the easement.
the survey for the easement
yes.
On the W Street side of the property, and then also provide a architectural rendering in context with buildings around it.
And you know what, and I'm also going to also recommend, if you're going to talk to the arborist, I would like to hear the information from the arborist as well,
Okay.
Mr. Rupert. So
Okay.
yes, I was looking for the HBRC number when you were when we were speaking, but since someone had seconded, I apologize. But with everything, I accept the friendly amendment to be the full amendment as recommended to the full ANC to support this HPRB application that was presented by Mr. Rupert for the 1300 block of W Street Northwest, with the easement survey, with the arborist survey, and also with the renderings that are with the adjacent residents in conjunction with this particular property. Thank you.
So I'm gonna just add one more small tiny
Yes.
element to this. You just need to state that the project is developing a 3-unit parcel.
Okay, and I will add
'Cause
that
that was,
the 3-unit condominium parcels, one with 2 bedrooms, one with the cellar, and the other one with was the other one a 3-bedroom?
There are 2 bedrooms.
Okay, the 2 bedroom condominiums, and the third one being a cellar condominium. Thank
Yep.
you.
Great. Okay, sorry, I'm writing this all down so that I don't lose reason. Okay. Do people need me to repeat this, or are we okay to vote on it?
can you just confirm for me?
Yes.
Karen
Yes, we.
Karen made the motion. I
Yep.
didn't hear who seconded.
Bruce Flippin seconded.
Bruce Frickles,
Bruce.
okay.
Yeah, Bruce.
And
Seconded.
then you made a friendly amendment to modify the,
Yes.
been moved and properly seconded with amendments.
Frank, did you have something to add?
Um, I guess there'll be debate or discussion again because I had a point Joel raised on Windows. So where would that come? I'll wait for you to call on me again.
Um, I think that probably would have been during the last part, but we can talk about it now.
The issue is this is in a historic district, am I correct?
Yes.
Mhm.
How can it be? I don't think it's permissible to have vinyl clad windows. I thought it was wood, framed, wood framed to a clad metal window, and I thought that was the newest standard. I've never heard of vinyl being permissible. Is that a new standard?
It's wood window with the vinyl over it, Frank, and that is acceptable. What you're talking about and what we've talked about before is putting up just vinyl, solid vinyl windows or metal windows. It's just a plastic coating instead of having paint on it.
Annoying. Yeah, it's a vinyl clad, Frank. It's
But
they're acceptable.
and isn't it also though, Joel, supposed to have a what? Okay,
Out.
I'm
He's
not.
not here. He's in a meeting.
Joel's at dinner laughing at a dinner joke. Okay.
No, actually, it's my friend who's laughing. You're hearing. I'm surprised you're not hearing the ocean.
All right. So my final point is I thought regardless of the cladding and the permissibility, vinyl being a new permissibility for cladding to me this evening. However, I'll let it go. But my question, I thought there needed to be some like what you call bull nose type wood that they needed to surround it to meld it into the building. You know what I'm talking about? Bull
So
nose.
that's actually called brick mold, and so
Yes.
they require sometimes HPRB will require a brick mold window on an actual historic building that's being renovated. That's what we had to do across the street. But on an all new building, brick mold isn't really
They aren't as
seen as,
fussy.
Okay.
yeah.
Okay. All right. Thank you for that clarification. I am done. I appreciate it.
Okay, thanks, Frank. So I'm just gonna jog all of our memories and read the motion as I have it written. And so this was the motion that you made, Karen, and it includes a friendly amendment from me. Um, So that is a motion to recommend that the full ANC support the HPRB application for 1300 W Street, case number 25-378, for a 3-unit condominium parcel with 2 2-bedroom units and 1 cellar unit contingent upon a survey to identify an easement and the provision of a full architectural rendering of the building in context with the surrounding buildings.
And
Great.
the arborist.
And the
Oh,
arborist.
yes. I forgot about the arborist.
I'll have an arborist report.
Okay. So say the same thing, but with and an arborist report added to the end.
Yep.
Okay, I think we do need a new second for the updated motion.
I'll second it, but I'm still the one carrying the first motion. Would
Yeah,
you
so
like?
You
I think
can't
someone else
second
needs to
your own
second it.
motion. I'll
I know.
second it.
How about it? Okay, you're going to second it, Joe? Thank you. Okay, because I was going to say if you wanted me to just reread it fresh.
I'm just trying to get a vote so I can get back to my dinner.
You're right, Joe. Thank you, sweetheart.
I
where
think
was
I think
my
that's I think that's sufficient. Okay. Everybody who is in favor,
I
please raise your hand or say
Aye.
aye. Okay, so and keep them raised so I can count. So I see
we
Frank,
see Joe.
Niani, Karen, you said yes. Bruce, and Joel.
I'm a yes.
And Jason. Okay, unanimous. All those opposed? None. All those abstaining? None. And the chair doesn't vote. Okay, awesome. Thank you, Sean. I really appreciate it.
Thanks, everybody.
We will be in touch with the next steps just for the ANC committee. So when you have the chance to follow up with those 3 items, let me know.
I'll start working on tomorrow.
Awesome.
Thanks.
Thank you.
John,
Bye, guys.
also, Christian's going to forget this, so I'll say it just on his behalf. You should attend the ANC meeting.
Yes.
Just be there in case questions come up. And
I
she's
will.
gonna be talking about showing them the renderings. They may have questions, so it's probably
No, I
going to
will.
be a Zoom meeting. I don't think it's going to be in person, but
Okay.
just be in the audience just in case they ask you.
No, I will. I will.
Awesome. Thank you, Sean. And thank you, Patrick. I
guys.
did forget to say that.
And thank you, Sean, once you send the Metalsmith information.
Well, email me, all right? Because I don't know how to get in touch with you.
You can, Sean,
Oh.
you can send it to me and I'll pass it on to Karen.
Oh, okay.
Oh, well, thank you for that bypassing. I appreciate it. I was going to
Bye.
give him my information in the chat. He's
I'll
gonna-
send it.
Thank you.
I'll send it. Bye.
All right, thanks, Sean.
Bye.
Okay, so next on our agenda is the resolution from Commissioner Barrio. So I'm going to promote him to panelist.
Hello. How's it going?
Good, good. Welcome. Why don't you take us away and get us started, and then we'll move into questions and all that good stuff.
Happy to, and thank you for giving me a slot in your agenda. Just to be clear, this resolution is not up for a vote today, but I did want to come present to you all so that at your next meeting, we can hopefully move forward on it. But I definitely want to hear folks' feedback, get people's thoughts. Yeah, so I'll just start off by saying, DC, as many of us know, has an acute housing shortage. I would call it an emergency. 2022 study pegged the shortage at 116,000 homes, or 35% of the district's housing stock, and that's likely worsened in the last 3 years as homes have continued to appreciate. The median price, so the median price of a home in DC, compared to the median income of residents here is 6.8, that ratio. So that means that a home costs 7 times as much as the median income of a household, which is quite bad. A healthy range is generally between 3 and 4. And because of this this price pressure, we're seeing extraordinary displacement of residents and homelessness. Right now, roughly 1 in every 125 district residents is homeless, and we're sort of witnessing the tragic results of that as the federal government clears encampments and uses unsheltered homelessness as one of the pretexts for this federal takeover of the district and of our police department. So how have we gotten here? Right now, it's illegal to build. One of the reasons why we've gotten here is that right now it's illegal to build new housing for families in large swaths of the district. So 23% of DC's land area and 80% in Rock Creek West, so west of Rock Creek, is zoned exclusively, practically exclusively for single family detached homes. So homes that are not attached like townhomes that are on their own lots. Those neighborhoods are generally very wealthy. They are exclusive. It is very difficult for average residents of DC to buy into them. Historically, throughout the country, zoning has been used to keep out groups that were considered undesirable by white homeowners, such as Black Americans, immigrants, poor people. And this was after explicit segregation became illegal or distasteful. And like I said, this is all throughout the US. And that's pushed this sort of legacy of zoning and sort of preventing new housing from being built in many of these neighborhoods, pushes new growth and development to a pocket of areas, a handful of areas in cities where it is legal to build. I would say ANC 1B is one of them. We built a lot of housing, which I think we should be proud of, contributing to the district's goal of producing, I believe it was roughly 35,000 units of affordable housing that the mayor had by 2025. And so, I think that growth and growing pains, we want those to be distributed equitably throughout the district and not just in a handful of areas. So turning to what we can do about it, because I want to be conscious of time, DC has the chance to really turn around this very dire housing situation for the first time in 20 years because we're rewriting the comprehensive plan. And the comprehensive plan guides the use, density, and design of buildings and directly shapes the city's physical form. So we get one bite at the apple. This can shape land use for decades. And if we don't do this, then what we could see is that in many areas, the areas I discussed that right now have single family detached homes on large pieces of land, those could convert to McMansions, so just larger homes that are even more expensive, rather than more units of housing that would be less expensive and that would house more district residents. So the main thrust of the resolution is light touch density, which would legalize by right construction of up to 8 single-family units per lot, district-wide. It would legalize by right construction of townhomes district-wide, and it would legalize by right construction of accessory dwelling units. And there's some other provisions in there that I'm happy to talk about and review. But I did add a lot in there, so this is a starting point, I would say. Yeah, so the last things I want to say are just that, the DC needs to build more housing and that sort of ANC 1B is already quite dense. We already have light touch density and beyond because we have dense blocks of townhouses, we have big multifamily buildings, but a lot of areas of the district just don't have that and they really need that. One estimate showed that legalizing 2 to 8 units in lots currently zoned for single family could produce the equivalent of 0.4% of the district's current housing stock, which might not sound like much, but that is 6 times the rate of single family home production over the last 10 years. So it's just a lot more housing that we could be producing. And the last thing is just that, yeah, other places have implemented reforms similar to this, and it's made a big difference. And I think we can make a big difference here. So I'm happy to answer questions and talk more about it with everybody.
Awesome. Thank you, Commissioner. Okay, so I'm going to get us started with questions, committee member questions. And the first person with their hand up is Joel. So why don't you go ahead? Unless you don't have a question anymore, because you put your hand down.
Don't want to take him away from the beach.
Yeah. Okay, Joel, I'm gonna go on to Frank, but if you intended to ask a question, just raise your hand again. Frank, go ahead.
Yes, thanks.
Well, I was here. I was trying to get unmuted again. Do I still have my spot?
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
I'm relinquishing my spot to the beach guy.
Thanks, Frank.
Thank you.
Go ahead, Joel.
Generally, I'm in favor of this whole process of what you're doing. I do have concerns with 3 of the points, though.
Yeah.
The one is allowing by right 8 units on any lot. I think there has to be some constraint, especially with the other point is no minimum lot size and no setbacks. If there's no minimum lot size, you could end up with something with 500 square feet and 8 units on it. So I think there has to be some kind of constraint on the 8 units. I think that's kind of an arbitrary selection, and there should be tied to at least some kind of high density area or some lot size. for the just rather than just saying a blanket number 8 anywhere, any size. I think that's a problem. And then it also goes back to the next one is, again, the minimum setbacks and the minimum lot size. At some point, you should have at least some kind of a minimum lot size. I mean, I do a lot of work on lots. Right now, the smallest lot allowed is 1,500 square feet in the RF1. I'm working on a lot that's 812 square feet right now. It's tiny, and the house is only a 500 square foot footprint. So, maybe 1,500 might be less, but I think, again, it should be probably more driven by zones than just a flat out, and especially with a no minimum lot size. I think there is a need at some point because it just gets unbuildable without. And it is kind of important. Again, I'm an urban designer architect, so the urban design aspect is a front setback, kind of keeping with the existing, really is a kind of amenity and something that helps the image of the city as well. So, side yards and rear yards fine, but the front, I think, should be again maintained within existing latitude of where houses are on the block. And then the third one, what was the third one, guys? Remind me. Oh, no historic review for multi-family units. I'll admit it's an extra step, but I think it's also very important to have, because if you've sat on some of these committees for as long as I have, you would be surprised at some of the crap that comes in. And a lot of the historic districts have a certain character and a certain feel, which adds a very nice livability aspect to the neighborhood. So I don't think exempting, just because it's a multi-income or lower mixed income, I don't think that should allow to exempt from those kind of standards. I think you should be at least somewhat in conformity with the character of the neighborhood. And it can be done. Good design can do it very easily and still very affordable.
Thanks for those comments. I really appreciate that.
Those are kind of my three major points. The other things I agree with, I agree that every single family home should be allowed to have an ADU. I think that's an important thing. Other than that, I don't remember the others specifically. I don't have them in front of me, but those are my three concerns. So I'll let the others go on theirs. I'm going to go and sit down and have my scallops. Thank you.
Enjoy.
All right.
Enjoy. It looks beautiful there.
Oh, it is. It's gorgeous.
Christian, should I say a few things on the concerns that Joel raised, or let other folks speak first?
Let me hear what he has to say, please.
Yeah, why don't you
I'm
say a little
off.
bit, and then I'll go to, I know, Frank, you're technically second in the queue,
Yeah.
but I'll just go to you because I know we
So quickly, so that Joel can get to his scallops. I think regarding the minimum lot size, that is fair. Texas recently passed a law that provides for minimum lot sizes of 1,200 square feet. It's limited basically to urban area, or I say urban areas. It's limited to large cities. So I think that we could potentially include a provision of 1,200 square feet, similar to what Texas did. I think if Texas can do that, then DC can definitely do that, given that it is.
Especially because Texas is not big on zoning.
Yes.
famously.
Yes. Though they still have a lot of zoning, you'd be surprised, but they have been making some progress on making it simpler for people to work with, and they're building a lot of housing in Texas. The other thing I wanted to say with respect to the number of units, I can share more on this, but basically the projections for how much housing can be built show that you really have to get to 5 or 6 units by right in order to get most of the increase in new housing production. So I don't know if it necessarily has to be 8, but I think it does need to be at least 6. It would also be very much, what is it feasible to build with a given lot size? These units still need to be sold. It still needs to pencil for the developer. So, not every lot is going to be converted to 8 units. It's only feasible to convert to a certain number of units in different places. But that's just some comments on that. And then in terms of setbacks,
are you still going to retain height limitations and floor limitations?
So there's nothing in the resolution about that right now. I think if you limit to 6 units or 8 units, you can only build that so high. I think
Right.
that adding too many restrictions can sort of defeat the point of we are in an
I get
emergency
that,
and we
but
want to make
again,
it
I'm trying
really
to avoid
easy. Yeah,
a 6-story building out in,
totally.
west west of the Parkway, because you're
Yeah.
going to have a lot of. Anyway, go ahead.
No. I think that's fair. I think that, yeah, I'm not too worried about the scenario where someone's trying to build 6 units on top of each other, but it is something to consider and something that we could write into the resolution. But I do think it's important that we allow people to build what makes sense and what
That's
people
fine.
will buy, So that's just what I wanted to say on that. In terms of front setbacks, I definitely hear that. I think that that's not one of the sort of main provisions of the resolution, but I do understand that that is a concern for many people, and I want us to find a way to advocate for what's really needed and what will allow infill development to really happen and to explode in the district. Because if we can't do that, then we are just going to have such a problem over the next 2 decades. So if we can work in if setbacks are compatible with that, then I think we should try to figure that out.
Yeah.
With respect
So
to
that's,
Hmm.
go ahead, finish.
With respect to the historic preservation and mixed income development, this was another provision that is not as central to the sort of light touch density, but I do think that I've seen mixed income developments in the area get sort of caught up in historic preservation. I've seen it cause delays. And so I guess it depends on what are we valuing and prioritizing as a district. Are we prioritizing building new housing that will house families, that will bring down prices, that will bring down crime, that will help a lot of people? So, I do think we need to think about how can we make the burden that historic preservation can be on trying to build this housing in our area quickly. How can we reduce that? So maybe we don't need to eliminate historic preservation for new mixed income developments, but we can try to think of creative ways, such as the sort of shot clock that I had mentioned about limiting all of these review processes to a certain amount of time. In Texas, they recently passed a law that says that every planning department has to approve new housing within 30 days. And I think that we sort of need the innovative, fast, lightning fast. We need that type of approach here.
Yeah, well,
In
that
order
would
to
never
get
happen in
enough built.
TOB. You'd never get anything out in 30 days. But
Well, I think if we pass a law, then we're just going to have to restructure our processes to do it because,
well, no, I'll just get a lot of approved permits very easily. Anyway,
that would be great. I would love
but
that.
I'm going to stick to the guns on the historic, because
Mhm.
without any review, you'll end up
Yeah.
things like Fordham Mendoza and some really horrible Section 8 block brick houses, where I think in historic areas there is a lot to be said for character and having mixed income, lower income, mixing and fitting in with the neighborhood.
So
If it
yeah,
doesn't
and I
fit in with the
definitely
neighborhood, it's going to be as
Mhm.
much of a disaster as it not getting built.
I hear you. And I want to
So,
be clear that
yeah.
most of the areas where this would be built would not be in historic preservation districts, especially like ours, where it is already dense. There is no more
Right.
real additional light touch density you can get out of this area.
Right.
So, but I
Okay.
hear that, and I definitely think I'll think about that more.
Okay.
But I
Thank you.
appreciate the feedback. Yeah,
All right. Well, thank you.
of course. Got a lot of
I
hands.
I'm gonna go to where did you go? Frank next, because I know that you had a question and for various reasons. Anyway, and then we'll go back to the queue. So then it's Nanyi, Jason, Patrick, Karen, and then I'll ask my question last. I just raised my hand to remind myself I have one.
Yes, hey, Francois. Thanks for the presentation. I would ditto probably every single comment from Joel. I find that at a minimum, some front lot standard is important. Um, uh, I have a few questions for you, but was wondering if there's anything about income diversity within your proposal, within your thinking, because I find it difficult when we build. Let's just say this: that public housing, as detailed and implemented since the '40s, late '30s, by housing authorities in every city across the country, especially the large ones. We're moving away from putting all single incomes into
Mhm.
one building. It's not a good idea. And so I don't know if that parlays into smaller developments, such as 8 units. But I think income diversity would be important to maintain also somehow, at least as in the thought process here. So
Mhm.
I'm asking you to think about that a little. I believe this would be double your presentation, your proposal for 8 units, I believe is probably double what's been approved throughout the states. Does Minneapolis have four, or is there six in Minneapolis?
I mean, I would have to check Minneapolis. But yeah, I mean, various places have experimented with different numbers of units. Like I said, you can look at the projections and you can see how much more additional housing you get by allowing different units, different numbers of units by right. And like I said, it doesn't, not every, lot, it doesn't make sense to build that many units on every lot. So
Well,
it,
well, 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 so then
Mhm.
iterating Joel's comments, I think they might be prescribed by current zoning designation, in terms that, so it's current zoning designation, for a single lot, family, let's say west of the park, single lot housing, one residence,
Yes. Yep.
precluding all others,
Yep.
is that 4 or 8, there
Right
versus.
now it's one. Right
Okay,
now it's
but
one.
right,
Yeah.
but what should it be there, and what should it be next to you where you live right now in your by right two-family lots? Should it be 8 next to you? Should it be 6 next to you? Should it be 4? I mean, I think it needs to be reviewed in terms of where and how we allow 2 by right, or 4 by right, or 6 by right, or 8 by right. So that's the spectrum I'd ask you to consider. Um, but again, and I'll ask you, I don't think you've answered where, because I think Minneapolis is either, I think 4 units by right. I think Arlington is 2 or 4, held up by the courts, but allowing to proceed in some fashion. I think you would be doubling, at least, if not tripling, any existing by right housing opportunities. So if you have any more information on that, I'd like to see that, because I haven't seen the clear analysis, but have been peripherally following it. Let's see. I think that might do it for me, but just considering all, and also again, I iterate all of Joel's points, including the historic requirement. And thank you for presenting this. Oh, one last point and conversation piece. Um, you know, I don't hold it deeply because it's such a complex subject, and I think you might be more of course, I believe you to hold more of a thinking piece on this in your regular opportunity, your regular daily activity. But there is a study done from Toronto where they increased the allowance of density, and they have built more over the last 10 or 20 years than any other city in North America. And so we should be able to see that prices have come down. Okay, but they haven't. They've doubled, and they're more out of reach, and they're more unaffordable than DC by far. And so I think it's sort of spurious that just by allowing more, then produces more affordable housing, because the experience in Toronto has been that in fact they have absorbed the regular per square foot pricing. Okay, so therefore, the regular square foot pricing that existed prior to the density increase. So I think I think the A doesn't cause B necessarily. By allowing more density will decrease costs, and I think that needs to be further clarified and studied and reviewed. But generally, I like the perspective that you're bringing to the table here. Thank you.
Thanks. I can quickly respond to that because I know there's a lot of other comments. Definitely have lots of thoughts on everything you said, so appreciate all the feedback. I'll start with, I think, yeah, so I think, I think we already talked about the front setbacks. So I think that that's something that I definitely want to give more thought, and I really appreciate the feedback from the committee for the resolution. In terms of, what does the effect of building more housing have on prices, on affordability? What I can say is that the new homes that would be built would be at a significantly lower price point than the existing homes in that neighborhood. So you would make those neighborhoods much more achievable for families of moderate means. At the same time, people that would be able to buy into those neighborhoods would no longer have to buy into other areas of the city that are currently more affordably priced with older, lower quality housing stock. So, for example, a family in DC that wants to buy a home, rather than buying a home in H Street, which they could maybe get for $600,000 or $700,000 on the lower end, they would instead be able to buy a $700,000 home in Upper Northwest, say near American University. And so this process means that lower quality, older housing stock would be preserved that is naturally more affordable. To your point about Toronto, I would have to look more into the details there, but I don't think that building more housing is a cure-all for suddenly making housing affordable for everyone. I think that it's a very long process. We're talking decades here because we have underbuilt housing in so many parts of the US, especially in major metro areas, for 40 years. It's going to take 40 years to build enough housing. At the same time, just because prices go up in a place after you loosen zoning laws doesn't mean that that's not working. There's extraordinary demand to live in large metros. And since the pandemic, home prices have appreciated in just the 2 years after the pandemic as much as they did the 20 years before the pandemic. So we've seen massive home price appreciation. And if you build less, then home prices appreciate far faster. And there's a lot of evidence to show that. So yeah, I would have to look more into the specific case of Toronto, but we've seen places where, such as Austin, where they've built a tremendous amount of new housing and prices have actually gone down for rentals. So you actually have seen prices decline. And I think that, I'm not claiming that this is one policy to help tackle the housing shortage, but it is an important one. It can make a serious dent in the shortage. And I think that setting aside prices for a moment, Toronto still gets to have thousands and thousands and thousands of more people live in that city, which I call a huge win. That there's a lot of families that would not get to live in this major metro area that now get to live there. And I think that's the same of DC, that we want to have more people, especially DC residents, being able to live and raise a family and own a home here for not an exorbitant cost of a house.
Just one last closing piece. The Austin example too, I think, is a little spurious because they have unlimited land. Okay, they keep creeping out. We don't have unlimited land.
So if you look where they're building housing in Austin, it's actually not on the outskirts. It is in the urban core areas that are only several miles away from the center. So I think that Austin is relevant. I think that building more housing where people want to live, which is closer to the city center, not in the exurbs, is really important. And if you actually build enough housing, if you make it easy enough to build, prices can come down or stay flat or grow slower. But it is just really important that we build more housing in order to make it more affordable for people to live here.
And then I'll cede the next person in line here. But last thing about the trash issue, it seems like trash is not often considered, and there's some very ill-considered trash problems here. Especially there's a new affordable project that we approved without proper trash disposal, over off of V and like 11th or so, and so I just think trash considerations per person, I don't know, needs to be considered in this somehow, some way, especially in very dense urban cores. So I thanks for your thoughts
Totally.
at some point going forward. Appreciate it.
I have a lot of problems with how the district does trash. Can't get into all of them now, but I agree. I mean, I think that once again, what we're talking about is you've got a home that is west of Rock Creek that is on a large lot, not just west of Rock Creek, also in Northeast to some extent, where that house is on a large lot. you can build more homes there. It's not already an extremely dense area. So, and also the additional residents that you bring in brings in a lot more property tax, which could be used to the benefit of the whole district, especially for improving trash services. So, there's a lot of, I think, benefits to having more people in the district that would allow us to pay for more services such as trash. But, in terms of restructuring how we pick up trash in the district, I want to see a lot of things, and I think that we can do them. I think that this is not rocket science, but it is difficult.
Okay, I'll go to Nani next.
Hey, Francois, thank you so much for giving this presentation and coming to the ANC to talk about this. I'm gonna, I think I am going to politely disagree with Frank and Joel and Jason, and I actually, I actually am pretty mostly supportive of, I think, of kind of all of the things that you've discussed. Including the setbacks, which I think one big limitation on the setbacks is in order to kind of maximize the amount of housing that we have, kind of not having those setbacks really makes it easier for plans to pencil out. I don't know about you personally, but I live in kind of a pretty small apartment. I would have loved having maybe 50 more square feet rather than having a front yard personally, because I'll tell you, I have a patio right now. I don't really use it at all, given how hot DC is. So the front setbacks, and then I'm not an urban planner like Joel is, but I am kind of an economist, which is kind of my day job. And I think with respect to kind of some of the things that you are saying, I'm really kind of, I believe that strongly that the bulk of the economic evidence about this has really kind of suggested your explanation as true, in that it's not kind of the only solution, but building more housing is really one of the key drivers to making sure that houses are more affordable. Some of the examples that you mentioned, Austin, Wellington, Minneapolis, actually even the city of DC. I know that rents in DC have kind of gone up, but compared to San Francisco, where I used to live, they haven't gone up by nearly as much. NOMA has built lots of housing, made sure to make things relatively affordable. So I think that is great. Regarding some of the other things that people mentioned, regarding the historic review, I actually think that some of your policies about by stopping a lot of this historic review, I think is actually a good idea. I don't know to kind of what extent that we should do this in. I think that, like Joel mentioned, this might be worth studying a little bit more, but I do know that a lot of individuals will often kind of just stall projects and cause delays, and using the historic preservation review process really as a cudgel to kind of do that. So having some sort of shot clock, like you mentioned, I think that would be really great. And then I think one thing that, Frank, that you hit upon was, I think that was really important, is, and I would like to see this kind of more in your proposal as well, Francois, is talking about mixed income housing, and kind of, thinking more about particularly low income housing. I know Joel isn't here anymore, but he talked about, how, having this, by right, he didn't want this, 6-story building going up west of Rock Creek. To that, I would suggest that I would actually love to see a 6-story building go out, especially mixed income west of Rock Creek. If you look at the DM-PED, the little dashboard that they have that says, we, met our housing goal by 2026. But it was really very, very, heterogeneous. So I know that our district, I know that our ANC 1B, ANC, kind of, Ward 1, Ward 2, and especially kind of, east of the river, those are the places that have really manufactured lots of housing. But if you look at this dashboard, you'll see that, west of Rock Creek, they've really not done a good job. So I would love to see kind of more housing there. This is not, I'm sure, not in your purview. You can't write something saying, we really have to build a lot of affordable housing there. But I do think that having that having, you know, by right housing, having more housing by right, having these ADUs. I think, you know, you said, you know, it'll increase housing a little bit. I don't think this is really a silver bullet like you've mentioned, but I think that this is really important work. And I did look it up, Frank. Minneapolis has four units by right. So just to answer your question there, so maybe 8 would be a little bit overboard for DC, but you know, like you said, I think that developers still have to build the unit. You know, they're not going to build, you know, 8 units stacked on top of each other. I don't think that they will build, you know, 8 units stacked on top of each other in like a, you know, 500 square foot area. I think that that's just wouldn't, you know, that wouldn't pan out for them as well. And given that DC already has a Height Act, even irrespective of kind of the zoning and what we have, I think that you know, at least having more units by right would be very beneficial.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you for those comments. I really appreciate that. And I definitely think that, you know, yeah, I think that there's a lot of examples of how this can work, and that there's a lot of neighborhoods that already exist in the US that have this type of housing. We really live in one of these neighborhoods. We live in an area with far more density than what this would allow in other areas. But it's just saying, you know, someone who has their home that wants to build a duplex or a triplex, they should be able to do that. And that's really the only way where we can accommodate, you know, the fact that we have a growing population and we have people that want to live here, and that demand is going to continue to drive up prices unless we have more houses. You know, with regard to mixed income and low income housing, I think that is a really important concern that we have. I think it is difficult for small developers. If you're trying to take your house and convert it into a triplex, and you say that 20% of units have to be affordable, and then you have to round up, that means that 1/3 of your conversion has to be affordable, which means that that project generally won't pencil. But I think that there are other things that the district can do to really make housing affordable for those really low income households. And I would love to write another resolution about that at some point. I think that's super important. And yeah, that's just what I wanted to say, that, you know, I think this would help a lot of people, and that through filtering, you know, there would be more housing available for some of the lower income groups, but it's not a silver bullet, like you mentioned. And families that are considerably below the median income are still going to struggle to afford housing in the district. It's just going to be very difficult for many decades to get the amount of housing that we need for those people.
All right, Patrick, you are next on our list of speakers, and then Karen.
So Francois, I just have 2 comments.
Yeah.
I'm not going to piggyback on all of that's been said.
Mhm.
My first comment is or who are you planning on sending this resolution to? What is your end goal?
Yeah, that's a great question. So my end goal is to have 1B pass this resolution first, and then have at least one commission from each ward throughout the District of Columbia pass the resolution as well, and send this to the Office of Planning that helps prepare the draft of the comprehensive plan. And that will inform the future land use map, which will hypothetically then inform zoning throughout the district. And so hopefully we can include this in the comprehensive plan, that we really want to make by right, light touch density central to our land use going forward.
Okay, so you kind of answered my second question with that answer, but I'm going to ask it anyway.
Of course. Yeah.
More of a comment, not a question. I would highly, highly, highly recommend, and I know this is probably more than what you want to do, but if you really want to get some weight behind this, and you feel it's important, I think that you need to try and go to every single ANC, or as many as you can.
Yeah.
Not just one in each ward.
Sure.
As many as you can. You'll have more problems in certain wards than others. We already know that.
Yep.
But the more ANCs that you can get to adopt and support this, and send them to off the planning and the zoning people that are working on this, the greater chance you have of them even listening to what you're saying.
Totally. No, I think that's true.
1 or 2 ANCs saying we think that the wall should be blue versus the rest of the world saying it should be red is not going to get you very far. And I'm speaking from experience here.
Yeah.
I've lived here in the city myself for in excess of 40 years, and I've been active doing this kind of stuff uh, as long as Joel has, if not a little bit close to his time frame. I wouldn't say how long because I don't want to age myself, but there is some need for unanimity, especially when it comes to the comp plan. I've sat through 3 rounds of this already myself,
Wow. Yeah.
and it's very intense, but the loudest voice is going to get the most traction. And the more ANC commissions that you can get to even listen to you, they may not agree with you, but the more you can get to listen to you and say, well, maybe we'll send something similar, the
Yeah.
better chance you have of this really taking hold and moving forward.
Yeah. No, that's super true. And I that's really helpful to think about. And also is just a goal. I mean, I think one commission from each ward would be, yeah, that is the sort of uh, floor of what I'm hoping to work on, and I'm working with folks from GG Wash, which you might be familiar with, the publication about urbanism in DC, as well as I'm hoping to partner with other commissions on this. This is really the beginning, and luckily we do have time since the Office of Planning is engaging in this process of soliciting community feedback for many months. But there's only so much time, and my goal at least is to really get as many commissions to sign on as possible by the end of the year. Because they are going to start making decisions, they are going to start moving forward, and the more people we can get to sign on, the earlier, the more we can be the louder voice in the room for the fights that are really going to matter for the housing and the future that we need in the district. So I really appreciate that comment, and definitely it's something I got to think a lot more about in terms of the outreach, the coalition building. I think that is like the hard work of this.
I would also go as far, just while you were talking, I just had this brain thought.
Yeah, yeah.
Maybe you should even sit down and meet with all of the council people and talk to them about your vision, because all the council members can also advocate on specific issues.
Yeah,
So if
no,
the
definitely.
ANCs are supporting it and the council members are aware, even if you go and talk to their chief of staff and get in, a face-to-face with all of them to talk about your vision, they can also weigh in. Council members have a lot of pull when it comes to the comp plan. You'd be surprised.
Yeah, no, that's
So
a great point.
I think that you should also address them. And
Mhm.
like I said, the more that you have on your side, the more power you have in getting it to the end point that you want it to be.
Yeah, definitely hoping to draw on people with more relationships than me, since I am to some extent new to this game. But that's a good point, and I definitely want to do as much outreach to as many people as I can in the lead up to over the next year. Yeah.
Karen, you're next.
Hello. And I'm so grateful
Hello.
I can get a chance to come in. And as always, Francois, I always enjoy seeing you in these settings.
Me
Um,
too.
I am highly supportive of this very ambitious resolution. I think it's really good. It's going to be helpful to help increase the benefits for the housing supply, and it can, if you have some built-in mechanisms, because I did my homework to make sure that I can be prepared for you today, with this housing supply for lower income residents and the historically underserved communities that I'm a huge advocate for. So
Mhm.
I was really, it's very rare that you hear people actually coming to the table with anything that address these issues as concretely as you did with this. So I think it's ambitious. We know with all these covenants that were built in, racial covenants that were built into the city system, that still a lot of them is still in place. That everyone is slowly trying to do things to proactively remove them. So with that being said, I want to give you my take, and I'm going to give it to you via bullet points.
Okay.
Okay.
I'll write it down.
Thank you. I'm so glad that all the weighty comments was given to you earlier, so that way you're ready for mine.
Of
So
course.
one of the things I want you to do is to include a monitoring and evaluation mechanism. And my bullet point would be create an annual housing equity report tracking displacement, affordability, and development patterns by neighborhood, as Patrick was mentioned, with automatic policy adjustments if equity goals are not being met. That's number one. Number two, in regards to a community benefits framework, I would like for you to add a new provision that says establish a community benefits agreement process for larger developments, 20 units plus, to ensure that new housing contributes to neighborhood improvements such as parks, retail space, and community facilities. Okay? We always should have community benefits in anything that we're doing, especially when it comes to affordability and we're working with the comp plan. I think that that's really, really critical. The next one, to strengthen the geographic equity language that you had in there. I think that you could use with some replacement of some of your goals, two of them specifically. One, I think it would be helpful to say establish specific targets for increasing housing construction in neighborhoods with historically low growth, with progress measured annually and adjustments made to incentive structures as needed. And then also create development incentives such as reduced parking requirements or bonus density specifically for affordable and mixed income housing in high opportunity neighborhoods. That's important equity language, okay? You know that's my specialty, by the way. Then next, we could ask for inclusionary housing provisions. I think you should say require that developments of 5+ units include affordable housing units or contribute to a housing trust fund. We're still talking about community benefits, but this is for inclusionary housing with reduced requirements for developments that exceeds minimum density allowances. Okay? That's for inclusionary housing, because you mentioned that earlier, and I'm glad that you did. And as far as historic preservation goes, um, I would add, maybe you might want to replace some of the information there to say reform the historic preservation review process to balance preservation goals with housing production, include creating expedited review tracks for projects that meet pre-approved design standards. And this is Joe's language, and Joe might like this. Establish a clear height and massing guidelines that provide certainty for developers while preserving neighborhood character in historic districts. I thought that was really important because um, if you're going to talk about adding something, especially when
Mhm.
you're talking about historic preservation, you want to make sure that you show that you're respecting the historic districts, especially for areas like ours where we're at right now. In regards to a phased implementation plan, I would modify the request to say implement a phased approach to legalize by right construction for up to 8 units per lot district wide, as Patrick mentioned, beginning with transit accessible areas and with neighborhoods with existing infrastructure capacity. I thought that that was something that you could probably change. And then a whereas clause. This is the whereas clause. Insert a new whereas clause, which would say, whereas increased development pressure can accelerate displacement of existing residents without adequate tenant protections and anti-speculation measures. We're talking about tenant protections here because I think it's really important that you add that. And then also you can add another bullet point into the request, but this is for tenants protection. Implement and enhance tenant right of first refusal programs and rent stabilization measures in areas experiencing rapid development. That's really, really important. And as you speak to other ANCs, especially where there's rapid development and people are being displaced, that's important. And then also create an anti displacement fund. This is so critical, and I'm always asking people to, put this into place because we're going through these rapid development, but we are not considering the people who are getting displaced. So create an anti-displacement fund to provide relocation assistance and down payment support for displaced residents seeking to remain in their neighborhoods. If they do that, I think that will help a whole lot, especially if the true aim is to work against anti displacement. If you really want to make sure that people have a place to stay and are consistently housed. And then my in regards to infrastructure coordination, as Patrick asked, who would you need to work with? You need to I've said that you need to require coordination with DDOT, DC Water, DC Public Schools to assess and plan for infrastructure capacity in areas targeted for increased density, with a commitment to infrastructure investments preceding or accompanying density increases, and then also establish a infrastructure impact fund financed by development fees to support transit, school, and utility improvements in neighborhoods experiencing significant housing growth. These are all protecting our community. These are protecting our public school system, our transit system. We need to, if people are coming in to overdevelop or do different things, we need to make sure that we are, as a community, we're protected. So I mean, you know my advocacy work. These are my lanes that I stay in, and I certainly would like to see if you're going to talk about these particular issues. And every time people bring up comp plans and equity, those are the real things that you should talk about too. Okay. So,
Thank you for the feedback.
okay, what's your thoughts?
Yeah, so I definitely think there's a lot of really interesting ideas in there. I think that I think that equity is super important, and I think that this resolution does want to put that front and center in terms of thinking about the historical exclusion of different groups from neighborhoods in DC and throughout the United States, and how we can try to undo that sort of legacy and how that continues to manifest itself through the way that the city is zoned. I think that there are some things where, we can't put everything in one resolution. There's a lot that needs to be done on housing in the district, and this is primarily focusing on some areas in the district where we can build some gentle density. And there's other areas of the district that are going to need more, that are larger multifamily buildings, where those conversations around, affordability requirements and how we want to create funds for preventing displacement are really important. So I think that could be its own resolution in and of itself to address some of those issues. The one thing I did want to say is I think that, you know, the impact of new development is always controversial, but I think that the evidence out there is pretty strong that new development prevents displacement because it reduces prices in and around where that new development is. So while new development can seem like it is displacing people, the actual economic reality seems to be that it is lowering prices in an area where prices are going up. So an area is becoming more attractive, and you see people coming to the area, people want to live there, and so prices are going up. And so the new housing development that goes up isn't raising the prices, that it's actually releasing some of the pressure in that neighborhood that already exists that's causing people to be displaced. And so I think that it is complicated in that sense, but I think that I would want to be careful around sort of the language we use when we discuss, building new housing in the district. And I want to make sure that, you know, we do put front and center the fact that we need more housing and we need to build it fast and we need to figure out what is the best way to do that. And I think that that is, that is really important.
Well, I'm trying to deal with reality because the reality shows us otherwise. And reality, we wouldn't be dealing with people trying to bulldoze people off the street if that was not the case, because a lot of people may or may not be there. The anti-displacement, if you're trying to, anyway, I put the information in there. I
No,
think,
I appreciate
but
it. Yeah.
I don't think that they're complex issues. I think once you start talking about housing, you should talk about the full picture. And if you're going to talk about affordability, they're not just something that you can just throw in without, making sure that
Well,
the true issues are addressed.
no,
That's
and
why I brought those forward.
no, I hear you. There's a lot of different issues to tackle with housing. I think my concern is that I think that the district should do more to provide affordable housing to people. I am concerned about the way in which the district can put requirements on developers that are functionally a tax on new housing and that make it more difficult to build housing in the district. So I think that there are ways to have community benefits. There are ways for the district to ensure and pay for low income housing so that those people are housed, that we can prevent displacement. And I think the district should fund those things. I think that that's something that we as a collective district need to say we are willing to put money towards that. But I think that there are some programs that have very good intentions that can backfire when we require certain things of developers that make it so that they don't want to develop in DC. They want to develop in other cities or not even in cities at all. So that would just be my only comment is I want to
Well,
find the best way to help people that are struggling to afford housing.
Well, you want me to tell you something? What I've noticed that is, as Patrick mentioned, as you go around the city and you ask questions, and as you mentioned, making these connections with and listening to the conversations that you hear throughout the city, you'll hear the things that I brought forward to you are the things that you will hear. And
Hmm.
but the question is, I'd rather have a solution as opposed to, talking at something and
Yeah.
having those things in place, and the only way people are going to know about it is if they consistently hear it. And as Patrick had mentioned, they'll say blue paint 50 times, but red
Hmm.
paint, if you're saying it and you present it, then
Hmm.
the thing is this, they have to hear it, and you have to keep beating that drum. But
Hmm.
you have to be a person that if you're at the table doing it, you have to be that person, especially if you're bringing it forward. And so
Hmm.
that's the reason why some people get uncomfortable when they start hearing certain things and then it never gets addressed. And so
Hmm.
I would like to see us be a little bit more proactive when we start using certain languages about certain things, so that we are addressing the full picture. And that's the reason why I did look at your resolution. I wanted to make sure that I gave it the homework that it needed.
Oh yeah, yeah.
And this is also the reason why I wanted it to be realistically addressed with real things. And we're talking about Washington, D.C., what affects Washington, D.C., not Texas, not Missouri, not Minneapolis, but Washington, D.C., what works for Washington, D.C. So that's why I'm saying what I said. Thank you very much. And
No,
thank you
thank you for
for
the feedback,
list.
and I think
Mhm.
it's great to get these comments, this feedback, these ideas, because I agree that this is, as we go throughout the district talking about this, I'm sure that there's going to be a lot of similar questions, a lot of similar comments and ideas. So I definitely want to think about all this over the course of the next month and come back to you next month with more things to talk about.
All right, thanks everyone. So I do also have some questions which have, funnily enough, not been asked. So I'll try to keep this really quick. Um, so the one provision that I don't sort of
Hmm.
intellectually, I don't have a problem with with most of this,
Hmm.
um, especially the 8 units. We're talking about a ceiling, we're not talking about a floor.
Yeah, yeah.
So, people will build 8 units if they can financially afford it. They won't if they can't. And I don't necessarily think that it makes a difference whether or not anyway. I do am sympathetic to what Joel was saying about
Mm.
the uh lot sizes. But
Yeah,
again, I
yeah.
think that those are usually like what I have seen, at least in development, is that those applications are usually like whether or not somebody builds 8 units stacked on top of each other is usually dictated by the market and not by anything else. But I am sort of, like I think it's possible for you to include a provision where it sort of scales the number of units that are able to be built by lot size, for instance. So like you start at 4, which is gentle density, the way that you're describing, and then as the lot sizes increase, you go up to 8, and then 8 is like everything over a certain lot size. Anyway, just a thought. I also don't really have a problem with the exempting affordable or multifamily developments from historic review. I do think the one that I am more sympathetic to is the front yard setback. I do think that that has a meaningful impact on quality of life and the way that streets feel. Um, and especially in a place, like in neighborhoods where there is like the neighborhood we were just looking at on 13th
Yeah,
Street,
yeah,
those have setbacks. I think it would be it would be a little strange looking and sort of disrupt the way that the neighborhood feels to the people who live there if all of a sudden there were these sort of like buildings built all the way out to the sidewalk.
yeah, yeah.
But I know also that there are neighborhoods where buildings are built all the way out to the sidewalk. So it's sort of like
Sure.
it
Yeah,
is really, I think it depends. Well, I don't know how you address this in your resolution, but I think it depends on where you are.
yeah.
Anyway, the thing that I wanted to ask about was actually the shot clock, which
Yes,
one,
yeah.
I would recommend using a different word than shot clock just because it's not
Okay.
really, um, as far as I know, it doesn't exist in planning as like a concept. And I asked around some of my coworkers today, and none of them had
Okay.
a. So I would just
Yeah,
recommend
yeah,
trying to think of something that's like more tied to
yeah.
like actual planning practice so that it doesn't get muddled by like just because this is a very complicated thing that we're talking about that has the potential to be really controversial. You want to be really clear about what you mean, and I think a shot clock
Yeah,
it just
yeah.
could add to confusion. Likewise, I also would suggest a different term than um, this is very pedantic, so you can feel free to ignore this, but I would suggest using gentle density or moderate density instead of using light touch. I know technically light touch is a thing that exists because it was created by, my understanding, at least by the American Enterprise Institute a few years ago. I don't
Yes.
think that it's a term that planners use. I have never encountered it until you sent this
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
thing, and
I'm
nobody
open
else.
to reconsidering
Yeah,
the
I just think
terminology
gentle
to
density or
address.
moderate density is
Yeah,
like
yeah, yeah.
a better, and also 8 units is not necessarily light touch density because light touch density, the way that AEI defined it, ends at a fourplex. So we're talking about like a little bit more than that. So I think just in the interest of being like direct about what we mean with this, then having it be called moderate density, I think is fine. I don't think anybody will. Anyway, that's like a really annoying quibble that I had, but
No, yeah. I mean, I do think it's important, like how you want to, the words you choose, and like,
yeah,
I guess, yeah, just
and
we're
not
shopping this around. It's important to have the
you can
label.
feel free to disregard this, but having
Yeah.
it tied to the American Enterprise Institute did give me the ick a little bit. So, um, and that's just me. But okay, so the thing that I actually wanted to talk about was the shot clock. So I guess I'm wondering exactly how you see this applying to like the development review process. Because as somebody who is a professional planner, I work on the development review process pretty regularly. Um, and you know, in my work at least, the development review process is like the number one place where municipalities can extract community benefits from developers
Hmm.
through negotiation. And if we are really truncating that time period in service of having expedited housing development, not only do I think we're sort of getting rid of that major chance for us to get things that are beneficial to the community, and I'm talking about like um, commercial space. I'm talking about like uh, additional green space, like changes in the unit makeup of a building so that there's more family units. Like those are the types of things that you can extract in this period of time. And I don't want to get rid of that opportunity in service of speeding up the process. If we could have the same thing with a slightly longer review
Hmm.
period, but I also couldn't tell from your application or from your resolution like exactly what this applied to in terms of like the development review process.
Hmm.
Um, so I'm wondering if you could speak a little bit about that.
Yeah, so I mean, I think that was intended to model what had been done in Texas to basically speed up the approval of new housing developments.
Yeah.
So, I think that the idea is that, and I think I have to read more on honestly how it's been implemented because I know that there have been various, negotiations and how is that enforced and things like that. I think the idea though is to prevent departments from sort of sitting on applications and also trying to incentivize departments to rethink processes for reviewing new housing that may slow things down more than it needs to. I think that we do want there to be proper review, and that might mean having a lot more staffing at the planning
Yeah.
department, which I would love. I think that would be great. Like we need the, government capacity there. So yeah, I think that was just what I was thinking about, but
Got it.
definitely open to hearing thoughts on what you think the right window is, especially for DC, because I know that it's not the same as Texas, but I do think that
Yeah.
housing is housing. Yeah, reviewing permits is reviewing permits. I think there's ways to make it work.
I think something, I mean, this was a little bit of a conversation about the budget amendment or the Budget Support
Yeah.
Act, because there was a component in there that addressed standing for
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
appeals. And I was generally supportive of that, except that it had this bond thing that was part of it that seemed cuckoo bananas. But my experience at least is that the majority of the delay comes from spurious complaints from residents and lawsuits and things like
Hmm.
that. And
Yeah.
so,
Yeah.
and not necessarily from a prolonged staff review, although
Okay.
I'm talking about Alexandria, which is where I work. I'm not talking about DC, so I don't know exactly
Yeah.
what goes
Yeah.
on in DC.
Hmm.
But I do think, in addition, Joel sort of alluded to this. I can count on one hand the number of development applications that I've reviewed at first submission that have been livable.
Hmm.
And I'm not exaggerating. Like they are, a lot of the times they are just utter garbage, and they
Hmm.
require meaningful changes from the part of the developer in order to make them even a livable place to be.
Hmm.
Um, and
Hmm.
part of that is because developers are willfully submitting applications that don't comply with the basic zoning requirements. They're willfully submitting applications that,
Hmm.
like there's a lot.
Hmm.
I
Yeah.
know that
Yeah.
there's ethical developers out there, but my experience has been that they are, if there's a corner they think they can cut, they will cut it. And so
Hmm.
another concern about this time period thing is that what would result is those types of developments just automatically being approved because they they fall prey to this 45-day window, and then what we end up with is like a
Hmm.
unlivable building basically.
Sure.
So I
Yeah.
think that's
Yeah.
something to just be really mindful of
Yeah.
in
Yeah.
tandem with the like community benefits part. um
Hmm.
so I don't know exactly what to recommend in terms of like length of time, because
Hmm.
I do think that there's like a very real cost to developers that
Hmm.
they incur when applications are prolonged. Uh,
Sure. Yeah.
and
Yeah.
I don't and that I'm totally
Hmm.
understanding of.
Yeah.
But I
Yeah.
also want to make sure that we get, even in a quick environment, that we get housing that comes with the community benefits that are needed and also is livable. And I am worried that a 45-day window would result in neither of those things being accomplished. So, um, everything else, I think, like
Hmm.
I
Yeah.
don't,
Yeah.
I'm with Nanye. I don't really care if a 8-unit building gets built west of Rock Creek. I think, oh, there's another thing that I thought I would mention. Are you familiar with Massachusetts 40B? Have you heard of this?
I don't think I have.
So I used to work as a planner in Massachusetts, which is
Okay.
how I know about this. But
Yeah. Yeah.
there's similar legislation, slightly similar legislation in Rhode Island and also in California.
Hmm. Hmm.
Massachusetts
Yes. There's been
40B is
different.
an
Yeah.
affordable housing development legislation that basically allows developers to be exempt from local zoning ordinances in Massachusetts if they provide a certain amount of affordable housing.
Hmm.
Um, I think that this is, there are concerns with 40B in Massachusetts, which I won't go into,
Hmm.
but I'm happy to talk to you about later. I do think that with regard to some of the things that Karen was saying, a 40B
Hmm.
style piece of legislation in
Yeah.
Washington, D.C. could be really powerful because it exempts you could structure it in such a
Hmm.
way that developers would be exempt from some of the things like historic preservation review and
Hmm.
other things if they provided a certain amount of affordable housing. And that would save them time, application fees, etc. So that might be something that you want to look into. Maybe it's outside the purview of this resolution, but it's something that
Yeah.
I was
Yeah.
that came to mind when Karen was talking.
Hey, Christian, they have something similar with the PUDs and the inclusionary zoning type stuff,
Yeah.
those little built-ins. But I am so happy that you brought up the family space that's needed, because I meant to add that in,
Mhm.
but I was like, because one thing that we don't have is anyone who looks at housing as something that is family oriented. You know,
Yeah. Yeah.
people are. I had a neighbor, I mean, wonderful neighbor. You know, he's beautiful. Then he met a young lady, and guess what? Now they have to move to a bigger place. And I'm
Mhm.
like, I'm losing my favorite neighbor. And you know, both of them are excellent, but I'm losing them because they had the Crackerjack place with the 600 square feet place, and you know, nobody can build a family inside those homes. And as Christian said, the community benefits. Whenever I think of DC, and I know that you were saying, Francois, that it's always difficult to think about you know, bringing these things to the table. But if you're not thinking about DC, community benefits is really, really, really important. And also inclusionary provisions, as Christian was mentioning, when it comes to developers trying to do these quick and snappy houses, I mean, it's crazy. They build them, and they have below grade materials, below grade standards on how they're working. And we just had something over in Hillcrest Heights here in Washington D.C. where the entire development, they built it with less than 5 years. That entire development is garbage, and all those people who wanted that full and affordable housing, they built that crackerjack setup, and then and they bought these places. It's not like someone was giving it to them and it was some government
Mhm.
subsidies.
Mhm.
These people bought this. They spent their
That's terrible.
hard-earned
Yeah.
income on these places, and because
Yeah.
they
That's,
took advantage of it, and the developer, he ran, and you know,
mhm.
and it's just for
Yeah.
after five
I'll definitely
years
read about that. Yeah.
Right. After
Yeah.
5 years, they get into these what is the
Mhm.
program? Homestead program or whatever. The
Mhm.
developer took advantage of these people. And so what Christian was saying, as you were talking, Christian, I was like, God, this man is hitting all my light bulbs off. We need to have, just like I said, always have we said an anti-displacement fund. We need to have a fund that is beyond the inclusionary zoning and PUD funds, where these developers who are just like that, the bad developers like Joel mentioned, they need to start paying into a fund to help protect people who get taken advantage of these quick fixer uppers. I don't what's the urban word for it, Christian?
Um,
When they do it too fast, way too fast, but
I
it's
know what
just
you're thinking of,
it's
but I
all
can't.
smoke and mirrors,
Yeah.
and
Mhm.
they meet the minimum requirements that the city requests for them to do in regards, and they use subpar everything, subpar architects, subpar building, everything, and then everybody is set up with a money pit that they you know, and everybody is taking as suckers in regards to these things. And we need to have some type of fund to help people who get taken by these predators,
You're talking
because that's
about
what they're
conversion
doing.
properties, Karen?
Yeah. Well, I'm really trying to get if it's a flipper, a conversion property, if it's one of those, it's mainly for these developers who come in and they build these houses really quick, and they look real pretty, and they barely last for 5 years, and then next thing you know, they you know, people have just gotten taken, and no, the city is not protecting our residents who get these really bad developments. That's all. And I just think we need to
Mhm.
have some type of fun. I would build that into the resolution. anytime you start talking about Anytime you're talking about affordable housing, you have to understand that everybody doesn't have someone that's going to do the research for them. So I try to look from all levels, Francois, every time I'm advocating for people. I'm like, okay, what about that person who is waiting, who has no knowledge of urban planning, who has no
Mhm.
knowledge of architecture, but they want to get that wonderful affordable home, and they just got out of college and they don't have any of this infrastructure knowledge. And we need to protect them when they get these bad
Yeah, I mean,
houses.
I think to your point, Karen, just because we're, uh,
I know you want to cut me off, dude, but
no,
don't
no,
do it.
no. I really agree with you. I mean, I think that I think we need to be. I guess I would be really interested to because I think I share some of the exact same. Well, I know I share some of the exact same concerns that you were just talking about. And I just the reason I'm interrupted is because Skip Keats, who's in the audience, is an ANC commissioner in 5D,
Oh, okay.
and
Sorry.
mentioned that
I didn't
he has
realize
there's
he had
several
that ring.
cases like that in 5D. And so I think that sometimes it is really hard for development for policy to distinguish between buildings between um let me rephrase what I'm trying to say. I think sometimes development review standards do not incentivize
Mm.
and I see this in Alexandria too, do not incentivize complete applications at first submission. And so this is a different problem. But I do think that like having a more nuanced approach to that review period, Francois, the would
Mhm.
be, I think, appropriate because um in the cases where the development application is great, then it should be approved quickly, and there should not be barriers to that. Um, I do think though that if there, maybe there's a way for in the application or in the resolution to sort of like carve out a way for the or to make a recommendation that that the Office of Planning develop some type of sort of completeness standard that they can use as an initial assessment on application submissions. I
Mhm.
do also think that one of the things that you're talking about is making a lot of these things by right, which reduces their level of review. Obviously, right now, an 8-unit building in the Palisades would go through like intense review. Um, and under your resolution, it would not go through such an intense review. I do think that that addresses some of the things that I'm talking about. Just the fact that
Mhm.
it will still go through a review period. I'm not sure. I think the thing that I'm getting hung up on is that at the end of the 40 days, it becomes approved. Um.
Mhm.
Uh.
Well, I mean, you could
Yeah.
reject it, but yeah, I definitely hear the feedback, and I think that yeah, like that's, you know, I I think we definitely want to make sure that this type of flimsy housing doesn't get built where people are putting their life savings into something and then
Yeah.
they're seeing all their equity um, washed away by the fact that the structure is not built properly. So yeah, I'm totally open to more discussion of that. I honestly think that there's so many things that you could tackle with something like this, and like I would love for other commissions to do some more resolutions on some of these other housing issues. So I'm not sure what direction I'll ultimately take it in, but I think that some of these other points, while they're really important, I may condense down to like the main things that
Totally.
I want to get other commissions to sign on to make it simple for them. So yeah,
And
that's really helpful feedback though from someone who is a planner. So
I'm happy, Karen, to work on an additional resolution with you that might talk about some of these things.
Oh, I'm always game for that. I mean, I
I'm happy
really,
to help.
the thing is this is and Christian and first of all, I see I mean I've been here and I don't mind telling you guys how old I am because I told y'all how beautiful black looks on me. But I do not, what I do want to say is this is that we have to always be considerate of, we have a lot of predators that come into the city, especially when we start saying, okay, now the comp plan is ready, people want to develop, people need housing, and here comes the vipers. They immediately come in and they start preying upon people who do not know all of the details that's necessary to get high grade, high quality housing and also be affordable housing. We know that we want to have the best materials in place, and they'll get subpar stuff, and then people are stuck with these money pits, and I mean their houses are flooded. We have places all throughout Shaw where you have all the flooding that goes on because someone did not build something properly, and the inspectors are not doing the proper work. And the city is not being accountable enough to ensure that we have high quality people working throughout. This is the point of this committee, as we know, working throughout the city to do what they're supposed to do.
Mhm.
And so it starts here at the grassroots level and the ANC level, but it needs to be consistent oversight. This is why I said the monitoring
Mhm.
is necessary, Francois, but also Christian, I tell you, you talking about writing something together. I really appreciate you so much when you said, hey, the family stuff, and then also when you brought up that subpar stuff. I said, how did I forget that? That is something we always need to be critical about because we
Mhm.
have too many places where these Legoland um buildups have just left us high and dry. Well, not high and
Yeah.
dry,
Yeah.
wet and soaked deep in the in
Mhm.
the city. So I really want us to be better. And I think Francois, you
Mhm.
picked up the mantle, sir, and it's yours to carry. So unfortunately, you're going to have to do your job. So
Well,
thank
luckily I've
you.
got help.
Yes, you have job. I'm gonna be on your side just as long as you're willing to do it. Thank you.
Totally. And really quick on the family point, I think that's super important. And I think that, one of the things is that multifamily housing is really important, but it is hard to raise a family in a multifamily unit because they oftentimes don't have many bedrooms. And when you are able to convert houses into duplexes, triplexes, quadplexes, or just smaller homes, that is more family oriented. We do seem to see more families able to live there, raise kids better. And so I will say, like, once again, DC has a lot of this, gentle density, whatever you want to call it already. We can have a lot more. And I think that is one of the solutions that's really workable for families, because, a 1 or 2 bedroom apartment is just not usually ideal for people that want to have kids.
Patrick, you are next.
Um, have to think
Not
about
that
what I'm
apartments are
gonna
bad,
say
by the
if
way.
people have been
Apartments are
talking
good.
so much.
You can have more bedrooms, but it's hard.
Um, Back to Karen's point about the, and I think Francois, you may have said this too, so about benefit plans
Hmm.
and benefits that can come out. There's two things that I wanted to bring to mind is that what she's talking about and what you've said are extraordinarily not common within the district with developers giving away benefits. It's not quote
Hmm.
unquote normal for them to do. There is the process that has been put in place that is not being used as much now because it's been abused, which is the PUD plan
Mm.
for taking a development and upzoning it and adding stuff
Yeah.
to it.
Yeah.
And there is a huge benefit that comes out of that directly affects the community because the community is involved in it.
Hmm.
It also has to do with who who is working with the development team to facilitate the PUD planning and development part of it.
Hmm.
I've seen that go awry within the district in a couple of places where the developer used that process to its advantage and in my words, nobody else's, screwed the living shit out of the community
Mm.
and got everything they wanted.
Hmm.
Okay.
Interesting.
I
Yeah.
can speak from experience because I have
Mhm.
negotiated
Oh, wow.
probably 6
When you
PUD
negotiated.
that have gotten huge benefits for the city
Hmm.
and the community. I had one project that I negotiated a $600,000 payout for multiple pieces of stuff that was around the neighborhood.
Mhm.
Another one that did another $650,000 payout for scholarships and employment training, which I actually sat on the board for, and we were able to hire a firm. I wasn't 100% happy with what they did, but we were able to give close to 35 scholarships and put them through training where they literally got a benefit, and then they got a $2,000 grant. So
Mm.
there is ways to do it if it's done right. The other point that I will say, and I'll get off my PUD thing because I could talk for hours on that, is that there is, and a lot of people don't know this right now, but there is a process in place in the district code now that allows developers to circumvent the system,
Mhm.
get what they want as far as extra FAR and extra height and a couple other things if they make a contribution to the uh, Preservation Trust Fund, which the
Yeah, yeah.
city is supposed
HPTF.
to be
Yeah.
using to
Yeah.
build low-income housing.
Yes, yes. Yeah.
That's another boondoggle in and of itself, because that's under control of certain people to do whatever they want to do with. And
Mhm.
the big issue that I can kind of zeroes in on this in the sense is that, and Karen knows this, I've been an advocate for affordable housing from the first day I started talking about any of this stuff,
Mhm.
is that affordable housing is a very tricky word. It can be manipulated to whatever you want it to be. And developers have a great way of saying one thing and then
Mhm.
doing something else.
Mm.
And the whole purpose of the IZ program, when we pushed to have it put in place, has been really abused from the standpoint of developers, but it also has been what is that word? Albatross in the
Albatross, yeah.
the developers, because the city has put in so much regulation on how you can give
Mm.
an affordable unit or an IZ unit to
Yeah.
some. You have to have this, you have to have that. If you go $1 over this number, they kick you out. I mean,
Mhm. Yeah, yeah.
and
Yeah.
the side effect to that
Mhm.
is that today, as we speak, there are IZ units all around this city, and a lot of them in Ward 1.
Mhm.
They're sitting vacant,
Mm.
unusable, because
Yeah.
the landlords have said, screw this shit. I'd rather leave it blank than try
Yeah.
to go through all of the bells and whistles that I need to do to get into it.
Exactly.
Yeah. That is a
It,
failure of the
it,
the
it's
system.
crazy. It's really, really crazy. So
Yeah. Yeah.
this kind of concept, if it's done right and
Mhm.
attacks all of the things that we've been talking about tonight, yes, there's probably a whole lot of people over in upper Northwest that don't want you to touch them with a 10-foot pole.
Mhm.
But the other side of the coin is that we here in this area have been
Yeah.
really taxed ridiculously.
Mhm.
And my final comment that piggyback on what Karen was saying, there are a lot of very unscrupulous developers, and if people are not attentive to that, the
Mm.
city doesn't have a lot of mechanisms in place to really control it. You go down, you get a permit, you build your stuff. Supposedly, it's supposed to be inspected and all that. I
Mhm.
can tell you from my own personal experience
Mhm.
of stuff that's happened. I had a lady across the street from me who thought she was going to build all this stuff, and she was going to, oh, I like what that guy's doing, and oh, I like what that guy's doing. And I literally had to rake her over the coals because she was trying to build something she wasn't allowed to. She
Mhm. Yeah.
was disregarding the people next door and not even weighing in the fact that their construction people were tramping over their roof and putting holes in there. I mean, it was ridiculous. And nobody in the city really watches any of this stuff
Mm.
unless you're a concerned neighbor and really voice your opinion and on top of that, as Karen said, know all of the pieces of the puzzle on who to call and who to
Yeah.
contact.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
are screwed.
Yeah.
Really.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, Francois, I hope you're ready to pick up the mantle because it's a multifaceted job, and if you're gonna write this, you have to know all the components and who you have to be in touch with in order to address it. And although we've given you a number of tidbits to add to it, because I bet you didn't know that it was going to involve all these things, it really does. Because if you just can't segment things away and say, oh, we'll do that next time and do that next time. I assure you, all of these things are connected, and you do have to understand that legislation is legislation, and it all sometimes they're heavy bills and sometimes they're lightweight bills. And if you're just trying to get a quick and easy thing done, this is not that. This is not quick and easy. And this is something that really requires the due diligence to understand the people that's going to be affected by these particular components. And whenever you say comp plan, that comp plan is a huge document
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
Phil Mendelson, he likes to look at the printed version of it, okay? And it's a huge document that once it only comes around in certain iterations where you want to make sure that whatever's going to go in it, they're going to use it as the holy grail of the city, that you put it in. Because if you don't put it in, you'll have someone who will nitpick and say, well, I didn't see that in there, so we don't have to honor that. And like Patrick mentioned, unscrupulous. Oh my goodness, there's a new word that you should use for these people. They will come in and they'll find every loophole that they can to avoid taking care of the responsibilities that they're supposed to set out. And whenever you're talking about affordability in housing, displacement is a very important component of it. And then also those covenants that are still in place, especially in the area that you're speaking about, those areas have never been touched, and it was for a reason. So you have to understand you're going to go through some minutia, subterfuge, and every kind of other thing. Okay, I'm trying to use the words that Patrick didn't use that he could have used. Better vocabulary words, Patrick. Better vocabulary words. But in any case, you're going to go through a whole lot of stuff that you don't want to go through, but it's a it's some stuff that's been entrenched in Washington D.C. since the inception of Washington D.C. that you're going to have to go through in order to get some of those areas that you're talking about developed. And it's not that it's not possible. It is possible, but you got to stick with it. Thank you.
Thanks, Karen. Okay, Frank,
Yeah.
you
I
are
have to go soon,
Yeah,
but
yeah, yeah.
Frank, give me a quick thought.
We're getting to
Yes,
the
I
end of our
gotta
time.
I gotta get ready for bed.
I expect a few more minutes. Thank you, Francois. I appreciate your ear here. One, you're talking about affordability. All right, right? That's the basis of this whole project. Am I correct?
The basis of when you say affordability, the basis of the project is increasing housing production
Right, for
in areas that
affordability.
historically don't, and that helps with affordability. Yes.
Okay. Well, let's talk about affordability. I think central to affordability is materials. Having been a property manager for a year or two too long, I see all the crap that everybody's been talking about. I see all the crappy materials that last 2 years that people then have to repair if it's a condominium at their own expense, or that the new purchaser has to repair after 2 or 5 years because we use substandard materials. I would like to see and ask actually for consideration that there be a like 10-year, like, some type of definition for the lifespan of materials used in buildings so that neither the owner that buys it nor the REIT or the small property owner that buys the 4 or 8 unit building has to repair it in 2 years after it's built. So I think it's a central consideration that isn't given the due diligence necessary. So to iterate, just perhaps an orchestration of material longevity or lifespans is important because they don't exist and because things fall apart in a year, because caulk fails in 1 year instead of 20 years, because it all sucks and it's all left for the homeowner and for the unsurprising new owner to fix. And it's central to affordability. So I'll leave that there. My second point, in about 2 minutes or less, is that I like this big idea. This big idea is important to the entire industrial world. Okay, because pricing's too expensive. Everybody isn't able to. I mean, 50% of the population in developed countries aren't able to afford probably larger, smaller, and various countries. So it's good for the United States. It's good for the world. It's good for the District of Columbia. However, I'd also ask that since 1B focuses on 1B, that you also consider other opportunities in 1B. 1B to make our lives easier and better and safer. And so I'm asking you also, perhaps after you've worked on this project, to have an hour or 2 or 5 or 10 available for other considerations, but something to do with the allowance for the arts overlay and why it has failed us, and why U Street remains at the top of the most unsafe places in the entire district. Why? A lot of it has to do with zoning. A lot of it has to do with what we permit through zoning and building. And I ask you to look at those as a commitment to 1B specifically, because while I love everyone to save the entire world, I like our 1B to focus on our 1B problems, which sometimes get confused with district-wide, with country-wide, and with worldwide issues. And while we all like to solve all those, 1B is closer to our hearts and closer to our mandate. And so whatever you can do to commit to changing some other things in zoning and the code to make our place safer and a better place to live so you and I can live here without the problems that have been sitting on us since before the pandemic, but deeply searing on us more importantly than that person up in Ward 3 and Ward 2 who does not feel the pain that we have felt because it all sits on our lap. So I appreciate your consideration on that. Thank you.
So Frank,
I
I'm
think that's
going
a
to
great
chime
point.
in and say to Francois that he just got a mouthful from you, and I was going to say that some of the same thing, but I will say to Francois, in all honesty, we're here to help you. So if you need help on any of this relating to this resolution or to what Frank is talking about, because Frank and I have been working on that issue he's talking about for quite some time, that we're open to it. So please feel free to reach out, and if we have to have a one-on-one sit down talk where it's not the whole committee, but 2 or 3 of us sit down and have a cup of coffee and talk about what it is that's going to help you with this one or other issues that we can take on, I think we should do that.
Well,
The
he already
opportunity
has
is there.
Christian and I already on board, and I came with
Yeah,
my
everyone
so
on speed dial.
we're sort of circling around a lot of additional resolutions. I
I
think since it's 9 o'clock, we can
yeah.
You're
we can
right
be ready
about
to be
that.
done. Is there anything else that
Yeah.
you wanted to add, Francois?
I was just gonna say, I think Frank's point is super important. I have been thinking about, trying to pass another resolution at some point that's more specific to, 1B and the area and the arts overlay because, the comprehensive plan does include provisions about, specific neighborhoods and areas. So, I think that's a great point, and I hope that we can work on a resolution like that at some point during this comprehensive plan process that's specific to our neighborhood as well. Yeah.
Cool. All right. I think we can adjourn for today. Francois, I hope you got some good feedback. Happy to talk through some of these comments with you
Yeah, I would love to.
between now and our next committee meeting. And I will make sure to send the transcript if you need it. We don't usually post that, but I'm happy to send that to you because there's a lot of comments. So
Yeah, no, I really appreciate everybody's time. Thank you so much.
thank you. All right. I think we can adjourn our August ZPD meeting for today, unless anyone has any new business. I do not.
Just want to congratulate you for just doing a great job. You've been doing a good job since you've started, Christian. Thank you very much.
Thanks,
Oh.
Karen. I appreciate it.
These I haven't been to these meetings before, but they seem yeah, it was really nice
Spirited.
to sit in on them. Everyone's so engaged. They do their research, do their homework.
Awesome. All right. Unless anyone has any other new business, I think we can adjourn. Great. Thanks, everybody. Thank you, Francois.
Good night. Have
See
a
you all
nice
next
night.
time. Good night.